Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome back to the Better Man Podcast. Today's episode is with Coach Patrick. He is the motivation and consistency coach for MFY Yoga. And we brought on Patrick back in 2024 in spring because this is such a big issue that we hear about with our community. It's finding the motivation to be consistent with your workouts. And what we get into in this episode is understanding the root causes where motivation falls off. So most people don't just need more motivation. They actually need to better understand themselves so they can understand what's getting in the way of their motivation. And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. We're going to talk about some of the exercises and some of the treatment methods that Patrick uses with his own clients as an LCPC. We're also going to be talking about how you can celebrate yourself. What does that actually look like in practice? We're going to talk about some of the threats that we face to our mental well-being in modern society. And you're hopefully going to come away with this with a greater sense of how to start understanding yourself better so you can reach your goals more. How can you figure out what's getting in the way of you reaching your goals? So I encourage you to listen to the whole thing. Hopefully you find some nuggets in here that are helpful to your own health and wellness journey, both in the context of fitness and living a healthy lifestyle, but also in terms of mental wellness. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and here we go. Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome to the Better Man Podcast. Today I have Coach Patrick, who is our motivation and consistency coach. At least that's the title that I came up with when we started looking for these coaches. But he does a lot more than that. And so I'm excited to talk with Patrick today and help you understand what he knows and how he can help. So Patrick, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. And I like the title. I'm sticking with it. So MC kind of has a
Okay.
nice ring to it. So I'm going to go for it.
All right. That's true. MC is definitely a thing. So, I interviewed a lot of potential candidates for this position. And the one thing that really struck me about you was that you had a very different approach to coaching that compared to the other coaches or potential coaches that I spoke with. And a lot of other coaches, and I think a lot of the tendency with coaching in general seems to be giving advice. It's listening to people's struggles, people's challenges, but then, giving them solutions. And what your approach seems to be, and which seems way more effective to me, seems to be helping people to understand how they can help themselves or come
Right.
up with solutions on their own. And basically, I think I called it empowerment therapy is the word that I came up with before we started this call. And so I'd love it if you could start with, what's your background in, I always forget the acronym,
LCPC.
LCPA,
Yeah.
is that
It's
LCPC?
LCPC, but
Okay.
you know what?
And
It's different in every state. So I like LAPC. That sounds kind of cool. So we can go with that. They're just initials at the end of the day. It just
okay.
means I went to school for something.
Los Angeles Police Commissioner, LAPC. Anyways, so yeah, I'd love it if you could talk about your background and kind of your education in that field and how you got started with that.
Yeah, thanks. So I've been in the mental health field actually practicing for over 25 years now. Growing up in like a small community, not really ever fitting in, I never really quite had a good grasp on my mental health, and I've struggled with anxiety and depression. And through my own therapy and kind of finding my own way, I realized that was what I wanted to do with my life. So I went to school, graduated, went to college, graduate school, and then just began working in different areas, DCFS, different places where I could feel like I was making a difference. Now I'm in private practice where I kind of work with my own clients and whoever contacts me. And it's been an amazing journey. And to go back to something you said earlier, I do think that it's great to get advice that tells us what to do. And while I'm not against doing that, I understand when people maybe need a little bit more concrete evidence. I think that's wonderful. But I think that the best thing we can do for each other is remind ourselves how empowered we can be, how powerful we can be, and that I can't be an expert on you because I haven't walked in your shoes and I haven't lived your life. So, to give you my advice, to give you my goals, to give you my approach, that's cool. And if you need a band aid to get you to a better place to make those decisions on your own, I'm totally down with it. But ultimately, you can't walk my path. I can't walk your path. My goals can't be your goals because I don't know what makes you tick. So to me, my approach has always been, hey, let me walk beside you until you can, just walk ahead of me. I don't want anyone ever feeling like I'm the magic or the therapy's the magic or the this. I want them to always remember that they're the ones making the difference. They're the ones putting in the work. And at the end of the day, that's why I want them celebrating themselves so hard. And through my, all the posts I make, things like that, it's always like, did you celebrate yourself? Just celebrate yourself. Just celebrate yourself. Because I
Mm-hmm.
just think that's the most important thing we forget to do. We look
Mm-hmm.
outwardly, we try to figure out what we're not doing right, which is great problem solving, but we don't do the counterbalance, which is acknowledging when we do. I've seen you put up, and I'm so
Mm-hmm.
thankful for your approach. I've seen, hey, show up for 2, show up for 5, do what you can, rest longer, modify. That permission is so important because people feel like if they can't do it perfect, then they're not going to do it at all. And that is just such self-sabotage. But when you are giving yourself permission to just show up, and that's a success, man, the motivation, the consistency, the success rate just goes through the roof. So yeah, at the end of the day, I want everyone to ultimately not need to hear from me because I can't offer anything you don't already know. I just want you to teach you how to listen to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That reminds me of the worst therapist I'd ever had. I think it was a couple years ago, I was looking for a new therapist, and it was the only time that I've been in a therapy session where he spoke more than I did. And that was all he did. He was like giving me like his life advice. And I'm, sitting in the chair looking at him, patiently listening, and just kind of thinking like, I think you and I have different goals in life. Like, I don't want your life advice. Like I want, I want someone who's going to help me understand, practicing my feelings. That's like that. That's where I found like the most benefit. But anyways, like, so that's like the exact opposite of what I've found helpful is like just someone giving you advice based on, like you were saying, you don't know what their goals are. You don't know what their story is or their background. So like for you to try and, step in and just give them advice based on that. I like the analogy of a band-aid. That kind of makes sense. But like for a long-term solution, yeah, that's that's helpful. So the motivation and consistency, I think one thing that I saw this great post yesterday that said, starting a new habit doesn't take new energy. It requires figuring out what's holding you back. And
Ooh.
I think when we're thinking about motivation and consistency, that's where that's where people are struggling the most. They come in it with the idea that, oh, I'm trying to be more consistent with my yoga practice and I just need someone who can give me some motivation, help me stay motivated. And rather than, you know, playing a YouTube video for you that's going to motivate you to do your workout in the moment, which is fine if that's what it takes. It's instead figuring out, hey, you're carrying around this big backpack of all these feelings that you've never processed, or like you've got all this self-sabotage going on that you don't even know about. So like, yeah, you maybe could bring your big backpack of stuff with you and show up to your yoga mat and do 15 minutes a day, 3 days a week, or you could do a little bit of work to figure out how to take the backpack off and then realize, oh, this is a lot easier. So I'm wondering if you could speak to kind of that concept of how you've been helping people within the Manful Yoga community with the motivation and the consistency piece.
Well, first of all, that meme that you saw, that's very perfectly said, and the concept of bringing the big backpack to our mat or our space wherever we're at, is just, it's dead on. You can put on a video to motivate you in the short term, but it's kind of like a Kleenex on a fire. It's like poof. And when that video is over, if you don't understand what got you to turn it on, if you don't understand what made you turn it off, then that motivation, the external versus internal, that external motivation is so fleeting and it's gone. And then you feel defeated and deflated. And it kind of becomes harder. But when you figured out what's bringing you to the mat, or what's making you hit play, or what's making you hit stop, what's making you succeed, what's making you fail, now you've got a log on the fire, that nice, slow burning energy that's going to really sustain itself, right? So bringing things to the mat, we think about like, well, what's going to empower me? What's going to empower me? What's going to empower me? But I also like to take the approach of, well, what's going to depower you, right? So if you have this like belief system that you are a failure or you can't do something, and you bring that to the mat, the first pose that you can't do, but you don't realize that's where you're bringing to the mat, right? That first pose you do
Yeah.
that isn't quote unquote perfect, now you're like, see, I knew I was a failure. I know I couldn't do it. Why would I bother to hit play again? I want you to bring your
Hmm.
backpack if you have to. And I want you to understand we all have struggles. But man, sit with it, listen to it, confront it gently, and be like, no, I'm not a failure. That's the celebration piece. I'm awesome because I showed up. And I'm awesome that I showed up with this huge backpack. And look what I can do with all the stuff that I'm carrying. I don't want people to deny what's keeping them from something or pushing them towards something. It's just all about being mindful and being aware so we can talk to ourselves in a kind and constructive way. We all have those moments where we
Hmm.
fall out of a pose and we get frustrated with ourselves. We all have those moments where we think about doing the workout and we're like, well, yesterday sucked, so why would I bother feeling that way again? And we focus on that part that we didn't feel good about instead of going, but how did I feel after? How did I feel when I felt myself improving? How did I feel when I posted about it and people complimented me, right? Now, I know I'm talking about some external motivation here, but there's nothing wrong with external motivation. It just can't be your only fuel source. I probably, much to your dismay, talk about food more than I should. And so to me, internal motivation is the whole cupcake, and external motivation is the sprinkles. Sprinkles are awesome. Sprinkles are great. Man, it just puts that cupcake over the top. But it's not the cupcake. External motivation can't be the everything. It can't be the thing you're excited about. It can be the thing that complements what you already know is great, but it can't be the source. And that's what I try to get people to kind of flip from. We live in a world where we're constantly trained to look at other people and their progress and what they're doing and what they've done. And so we go, well, that's what I should do. And we're going down someone else's trajectory and we can't figure out why we're never happy. Well, it's because you're doing stuff that doesn't actually make you happy. Maybe you're not this, maybe you're not that, maybe you're really over here. But we're so disconnected from what actually makes us happy, or ashamed of what actually makes us happy, um,
Hmm.
that we don't pursue it, and then we wonder why we're lacking motivation. Well, you're not doing anything to make yourself happy. You're not making yourself smile. You're not at the end of the day going, God, today was a great day. It was like, well, I did more of the same crap again, and so I guess I'll just wake up and do like it. Why would anybody want to live that way? So you got to take that moment to take that inventory. Am I truly doing what makes me happy, or am I following someone else's blueprint because I think that's going to give me the happiness I see them have? So it's not what we bring that motivates us, or what we find that motivates us. Sometimes we got to drop that backpack and realize all the things that are sabotaging us, that keep us from showing up again. But to be clear, I can't tell you what that is. I will sit with you. I will help you go through the backpack. I will help you point things out. And if you're having troubles, oh my gosh, of course people can assist. There's nothing wrong with that. But they can't do the work. Otherwise, again, now I'm externally motivating you to be helpless. And that's not any good. So I gotta help you identify something on your own. And then you're gonna know what to do with it. I can't tell you what each thing in your life signifies. People, and this is not a knock on dream analysis at all. People love dream analysis, but sometimes we take it literally. Oh, I dreamt about a tree. Let me Google what dreaming about a tree means. Well, cool. Maybe it means that. But maybe you have a memory about a tree with your family or your dog when you were a child. And so for you, a tree means something very different. If you start trying to figure out what your dream meant, because this is what the vast majority of people say a tree means, you could be going down the wrong path. But if you're like, well, I dreamt about a tree. How do I feel about trees? Like, what memories do I have about trees? You get to know yourself better and how you're interacting with your environment, how you are assimilating information. Because we all assimilate information differently, we remember things differently. So, yeah, any of those times you can come to the mat with a backpack, without a backpack. Just know what each of those mean and be okay with it. Don't be hard on yourself. Bring the backpack. But do yourself a favor, set it down right beside the mat and give yourself just a few minutes unburdened to see what that feels like.
So, as we're talking about this, and even as we first started talking about this, I think the issue isn't that. I think the biggest issue is people don't realize. God, we're going to be using this backpack analogy all episode.
I
People don't
know.
realize
You,
it's my fault. But people don't realize they have the backpack,
Mhm.
and like people don't realize they have the backpack. It also sounds like people are trying to figure out, based on what you were just saying, that people are trying to figure out their path by following other people's paths. And so it sounds like there's this profound disconnect of that people have with themselves. And so what is the process for like because you're saying you were talking about this kind of failure mindset, right? But I don't know how many people actually admit like, oh yeah, that's me, I have the failure mindset, right? Like I would assume that most people say like, oh no, that's not me, right? Like so the people who have these limiting self beliefs or these limiting mindsets, they don't even know that they have them, they don't recognize them. And so what's the process for starting to look at yourself? Like how do you start to do that?
Well, I love journaling. I love meditation. I love the mindfulness work that we put up in here. And all those are important because it starts to maybe tune out the noise. I like doing exercises with people, both in private practice or like in group coaching or individual coaching, where we sit there and we say, okay, write down, catch yourself throughout the day, the thoughts you tell yourself. And I need
Mm,
you to then sit down and figure out whose voice is that. And it's overwhelming to people when they write it out. They're like, that is something I've never actually said in life. Why is that a thought I have? But it's so automatic, like the backpack. We're so used to carrying things. Our brains like to make work light, right? So we just get used to things, even if we shouldn't. We just get used to them and we assimilate it. We're like, well, this is our life now, and we just go.
mhm.
The same things go with like negative thoughts, negative voices, things we've heard from other people, or things we've created based on what we think other people think of us. So we write it out, and you go, oh my gosh, I've never said these words in my life, or I would never say these words to someone else. That's the most common one. I would never say these words to someone else. So where do they come from? And you can spend your time figuring out who said it to you, and sometimes it really comes to you, whatever. That's not important. What's important is, well, would you say this out loud to someone else? Does this sound like you? Cool, then rewrite it. If it's not, rewrite it. It gets a
Mhm.
little trickier when we have believed something so long that we actually think it is our voice because we've made it our voice, we've adopted it. So sometimes you write it, you don't know where it comes from. Yeah, that does sound like something I'd say. You can't figure out that it's not someone else's voice or that it's negative. You acknowledge, okay, that is something I'd say. And I'm like, all right, you think it's helping you? How would you make the sentence more helpful? Right? You just
Mm,
take the sentence and make it more helpful. So whether you can flat out say, wow, that doesn't sound like me, I need to correct it or let it go. Or you have to
mm,
go a little bit deeper and say, yeah, okay, that does sound like something I say. Okay, cool. What do you want to do with it? Right? How do you make it more helpful for you? How do you make it feel helpful? Sometimes it's like you said, like the growth mindset, or the kind of concrete mindset. Do your thoughts, do your statement, do they empower you? Do they depower you? Do they give you a direction to go, or is it a dead end? I like that comma yet. You'll see me post about it incessantly. Um, I can't do that yet.
yet.
I don't know how to do that yet. Like, people get very annoyed when they're talking to me quite often because I'm like, yeah. So, but it is
Yeah,
very helpful
it's just
because
a constant stream of positivity. And at some point, I remember one time we were having a meeting and I was super stressed, and you were like, "Dean, breathe." And I looked at you. I said, "Fuck you, Patrick." I was like, "No."
and I said back to you, feel better.
That was, yeah.
Like, I love
Sometimes
when
it's
people
hard.
swear at me because that means I'm like, okay, yeah, I hit a nerve. You feel better now? Did you get it out? You ready to move
Yeah,
forward? Cool. Go.
yeah, yeah. So this exercise that you're talking about. So I want to recap it just so people are clear.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's, and how often do people do this? Like they just keep a notebook by their desk and they do this for a week, and then they at night do they go through and like look at the thoughts and like analyze them, or should they spend the first week just writing the thoughts down, and maybe the second week they go back and they start to, to look at them in more detail and say, whose voice is this? And or ask themselves like,
So,
does this help me or does this not help me? Should I rewrite this?
yeah. So, to go back to kind of what we covered before, uh, it should be done in a way that makes them happy. For some people, they need the notebook and they need to write it down and they need to make it very scientific, and I'm down with it. And they need to do it for a week. Fine. If that feels overwhelming, catch it in the moment and just think about it and go, what was that about? And then maybe at the end of your day, you write down the ones that really stuck out to you. There's not any one approach. It's just I want you to become more mindful. And when we tell our brains we want to recognize something, it's wonderful how we suddenly start recognizing it everywhere, right? So if you tell yourself, man, thinking about these thoughts are important, now suddenly you start catching all these like automatic thoughts that you didn't really had throughout the day. You can write them down, you can put them in your phone, you can put them in a coloring book. I don't actually care. You have to find the pattern that's going to work for you. Some people are
You get
very
to
scientific.
create the plan. Patrick's not giving
You,
you the plan because you're empowering
I'm not.
yourself to come up with the plan.
No, my plans are always a choose your own adventure book. Like, turn to page 75 or 42. It's up to you. And then we'll go from there, whatever the consequences are. And by the way, consequences are good. People hear the word consequences and they clinch. Consequences don't have to mean punishment. Everything's a consequence. You're about to take a drink, your consequences, you're going to feel less thirsty. That's not a bad thing. So we also have to kind of get rid of this idea of like, oh, there's consequences and oh, confrontation and all these negative words that keep us from being healthier. We've made them taboo and we don't need to.
Hmm.
Everything's safe. You're safe. Now, there are people, I want to put this disclaimer in there. If you realize you are in a dangerous environment, a dangerous situation, you proceed in a way that is going to be safe and healthy for you, right? And I do think having the support of a therapist is a great way to go. Not everybody has access to it. So I want them to always do things in a way that's going to be safe for them and not overwhelming. A journal is awesome. I also hear people, I don't want to write my thoughts down because someone might read them. So journal about it and then tear the journal up. You don't have to keep it, right? So there's a weird connection that's made like when we are writing and thinking. It just somehow solidifies and makes more sense. There's just something about the clickability in our brain. But you don't have to keep it. It's after you get it out, it's done its job, throw it away. If you're the person who likes to go back and review, go back and review. But there's not a magic to it that you have to say the spell the right way or it won't work. It's choose your own adventure.
Okay, cool. So, what are some of the things that come up when people go through this process, or maybe not even just going through this specific process, but what are some of the things that you find people have put in their way? I mean, and we're talking about this from this perspective of motivation and consistency, but I'm assuming that the same things that get in the way for motivation and consistency are the same things that get in the way in lots of other areas of your life. So, what are some of the things that you find within our community specifically, just so
Mm-hmm.
we know
Mm-hmm.
that people are similar? If you're here, you're probably similar to a lot of other guys here. So, what are some of the things that tend to come up?
Well, I think the biggest thing, and we talked about this in Austin at one of the live events. For all my nerds out there, it's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. You've created this character sheet about yourself that you don't even realize over time you've created. And there are so many. What keeps coming up is people have such belief systems about themselves. that they don't even know they're telling themselves until you get them to say it out loud. Um, if you get the brave soul that volunteers, like you're always good at getting done. They'll start saying things out loud, and then I'll be like, well, why is that true? Is that true? That doesn't sound like you. That's not the person I'm seeing. And I think the
Hmm.
biggest thing is the character that we've created in the head of ourselves. Um, and especially when you're talking about any kind of fitness routine or yoga or just any kind of movement, people have such backpacks about it, about what they can, what they can't, what they're afraid of. If I don't have a six pack, I should not post my picture. No one wants to see me unless I look like this. I'm not flexible. I know you've never heard that one, Dean. I'm not flexible, so I can't do yoga. I was never good at sports, so I'm just not good at sports. All these, we just create these snapshots of who we are based on old data, and we are always growing, we are always evolving. Most of the time, we realize it was never true. It was a circumstantial belief system, but that's beside the point. Bottom line, even if it was true at one point, it doesn't have to be true in the future, and it doesn't even mean it's still true now. It's probably something you outgrew or changed, or don't even know that you passed through. But we still have that belief system of the old snapshot of ourselves. So getting people to update who they are in this moment and seeing what they're capable of and giving themselves, like the Manflow Yoga community online, I can never say enough about how impressed I am with the things people share and put out there. And they are instantly surrounded with, oh my God, me too, me too, me too, me too. We don't have to be isolated, even though we believe that we need to be. And so those are like the common things that come up. The need for a face or a mask to be put on to present a certain way, or these old archaic belief systems that we have of ourselves that aren't true and maybe never were. And so we got to rewrite who we are. We have to be willing to sit down, put ourselves out there, see ourselves through other people's eyes, um, to maybe start updating our information. I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah. And I think these are all good ways to, I think we've given you guys, like, listeners, I think we've given you guys some steps here to start examining the stuff on your own. But working with someone one-on-one is going to be kind of the fastest path and the most
Mm-hmm.
efficient path to getting deeper in this stuff, right? It's like, yeah, you could go start a yoga practice on your own, and you could figure out along the way somehow, maybe without videos or without programs, but it's just going to be a lot harder. So anyways, I say that because yes, you can do this on your own, but yes, you can also get help. And so one thing I did want to move into is kind of talking about, you talked about how can you you talked about this concept of celebrating yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the opposite of what most of us do, which is belittling ourselves somehow. It's like, oh, you fat ass, you couldn't do your workout today. Or, oh, you're so lazy. You didn't do you didn't do that walk that you said that you would. And this is normal because humans have negativity bias, right? We're literally programmed to look at the things that are wrong. And the best way to fight that tendency is to do the opposite, which is, hey, I'm going to look at what's going right instead. And, I'm actually reading a book right now called The Antidote. I forgot. I think it's an older book. I just grabbed it off my shelf and started reading it, but it's kind of about how it's kind of knocking the optimism movement, which I don't
Mm-hmm.
know how relevant the optimism movement is anymore. But it's not about ignoring that. It's not about ignoring that you have negative thoughts, but
Mm-hmm.
with this concept of I got lost. But I got lost. But the point is, so reading this book, so it's not about avoiding optimism. It's being more I just totally got lost. We're gonna have to just redo this part. Usually I don't fuck up that badly.
No, no, but
All right,
here's the best part about it. I don't even
hold on.
think I love what you're saying. I don't even think you need to redo it. I think it's just like this idea that like optimism. It's kind of like when we say confrontation, right? We have like a certain idea of it. I don't think optimism or being positive has to always be puppies and rainbows. I think celebrating ourselves. That can also be acknowledging the parts that need to change. Loving something means you want the best for it. So if pointing out something that's not working, that's an act of love. I don't think we have to be all like, oh, I'm never going to think about the bad. That is never anything I would suggest for anyone.
Mhm.
If you love your car, you don't ignore the rattle. You're like, I love this car. Something's wrong. Let me go take care of it. Acknowledging the stuff that's not working, acknowledging the negative, to me is some of the most celebratory things you can do. Because if you love
Mm.
something, you take care of it. You don't put a blind eye to it, both in the negative field or the positive field. The approach more that I look at is whatever you're doing, just do it with kindness. You can point out your flaws, you can point out your faults, you can look for what's not working. In fact, that's what I encourage people to do. But you don't say like you did earlier, like you don't say like, well, you fat ass. You say, hey, look, you know that this is healthy for you and you didn't do it today. What's up? Why is that? What can we do better next time? We are negative bias, and I love that you brought that phrase up. Biologically, it does us better to remember the things that don't work. That's what keeps us safe, right? The stove's hot. I don't have to remember that again. So we do try to hold on to that information and store it differently. So I'm asking people to just tap into their higher selves and let intellect override instinct. And it works out just fine. I don't want you to ignore bad things, and I don't want you to only puff yourself up. But I want you to be positive about whatever approach you're taking. I want you to congratulate yourself. I want you to celebrate yourself, even if that means acknowledging, yeah, I didn't do that the best, or that didn't work the best, or I can do better next time. That's all part of growth, man. That's all part of like embracing it. I think it's perfect. And I kind of, I love that you were thinking, and it kind of took you down this path. And sometimes those linear thoughts, when they take us astray, I think that takes us to like the coolest places. If you just let your mind wander and you don't like try to confine yourself so much. So I encourage people to daydream as often as they can, and let their minds run amok. When we were talking about like that negative thought though, or optimism and things, I do think another thing in the community that I see a lot is, as we are trying new things, we are going to fail. That should be worn as a badge of honor. I failed. Well, guess what? That means you tried something new. That means you tried something you weren't a pro at. That means you're pretty brave. Good on you for failing. That is awesome.
Mhm.
I'm glad that you nailed that move for the 800th time, and I will celebrate you. But man, if someone fails, they must have tried something different. And isn't that cool? Right? As we're getting older, we have to update that character sheet and realize our body responds differently to different things, and that's okay. That doesn't mean we're any less of a person. That just means we're changing, we're evolving. That's okay too. We have to allow all of these factors into ourselves, and let us be constantly updating and celebrating, because it's an honor to get older. Not everybody gets there. So whether it's an injury, and people say the setback, oh, I gotta start all over again. I always catch people and I'm like, with love, I say, unless there are people who have had to start over, whether it be a traumatic brain injury or a stroke, those folks do have to, in a sense, kind of relearn things over again. Unless you've had a traumatic event in your life, you're not starting all over again. You tripped. You're picking yourself up, and maybe you're recreating a little bit of the path that you were on, but you're not starting over. So you got to knock it off with the, if I'm injured, if I'm this, if I'm that, then I'm starting all over. You have to see it as a part of the journey instead of constantly being reset to zero, because it's just not true. But also, God, how many times can you pick yourself up if you believe that like everything that you worked for is gone after one mistake, right?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, honestly, this kind of reminds me of, and I'm not quite sure how to explain this, but it kind of reminds me of, let's say, like in the last 10 years, maybe, kind of the the much wider acceptance of this oh woe to me kind of mindset that is now, it's acceptable now, right? It's like, oh, I'm having a, this is really tough for me, like, oh, I'm going through so much right now. And I think that's great on one hand, because now people are actually acknowledging things going on instead of gaslighting yourself. But I also see it as, do you have to get that upset over it? Like, are you gonna, you're kind of staying stuck in this place because
Right.
people are, culture is allowing you to do it and people are supporting you and you're getting attention that way. So like, at what point does it become counterproductive? I don't know. I didn't really tee you up for a question here, but as a therapist, I'm sure this is something that you have encountered. So I'm curious, like,
Yeah.
what's your experience with this and what are your thoughts around that?
Well, I'm certainly happy that people are much more willing to talk about like their emotions and negativity in your life. But yeah, like you said, with everything else, there has to be that counterbalance. There has to be that, great, you've acknowledged that. I'm so proud of you. What are you going to do with it?
Mm.
When, I think it's okay to wallow and have a pity party. I do. I tell people all the time, like, go through a tantrum, throw yourself on the couch and kick the pillows for a few minutes. Like, have at it. Nothing feels better than a tantrum. And if you've not done it, pause this right now, go throw yourself on the couch, kick your feet, punch your hands in the pillow, and then get up and go about your day. That's the counterbalance. What do you need? How do you fix it? And I say that in a loving way, like, if it's not helping you, fix it so you keep moving forward. For every person, that wallowing or that fit time is going to be different, but I think that constant wallowing does the same thing as constant chastising. Like, they're kind of like two extremes, right? And so you have to get that kind of internal compass where you're saying, I'm allowing myself to have my full range of emotions, being hard on myself, allowing myself to wallow. But I always come back to my center, wherever that center is. And I understand that there are going to be days that are extreme and there are going to be days that are mild. And I have to let myself ride the wave, but I always have to come back to my center. So developing that center personality, that center touching point, where you're like, still productive and functioning and taking care of yourself and eating well and doing all these things. Um, as a society, we like to just really swing from one extreme to another. And, pulp culture, quick fixes. I love, God bless, I love people being on a journey of enrichment and education. But just like anything else, if it's not offering a counterbalance, it's kind of like a quick fix. And unfortunately, there's not quick fixes, but there is longevity and there is ways to maintain and do things in a healthy way. You've got to be able to express yourself, but there are going to be times where you've got to also hold it together. Those are all okay to do. It's not about that pendulum swing. You don't always have to be in an extreme state. And if you find yourself always in an extreme state, I either have to be shut down or in the ball in a corner. And we've all been there, not making fun of anyone. If you're in an extreme agitated state, shut down, or in the corner, curled up. And that's when you start saying, I need help because I can't regulate my extremes. And there's no shame in not being able to regulate it. You just need to learn. So you can't regulate your extremes. Say it with me. Yet. Right?
Yet.
You'll get there. You'll get there. It's fine. So there is always a healthy balance. Whatever we do, just make sure you're making a counterbalance for it, a healthy counterbalance. And yeah, be careful reading things on social media. Everybody likes to give you that quick fix, whether it's these two moves are all you need to get in the best shape of your life. Like, or if you just eat this one food a day, you'll never die. We all love to hear it, and it's fun to be like, ooh, what's the simple answer? Eh, just put on that critical thinking cap and like, does that make sense?
Yeah. So, and we talked about this, but the social media thing, but what are some other threats to mental health wellness that we should kind of be on the lookout for?
I think that we are the most connected we've ever been and also the most isolated. So
Hmm.
we have this potential to be over connected with everyone where we share every single thing. And that can be great. But we also share, most of us, I try not to. I try to put the good, bad, and ugly. I got a great fall pic from my yoga session earlier this morning that I can't wait to post. Um, but we curate this lifestyle that we want to share. Like, look at me, and like people go do like 10 push-ups or pull-ups before they like pose for a picture, and they're always holding it with this like weird flex. You're like, well, I thought I was supposed to be looking at your baby. What are you doing? Like, it's like a weird. So people curate this image, and then we, as connected as we are, step back and go, but I can't look like that. My life doesn't look like that. And so we sit in the shadows and we watch everyone else live. So I think we're either overconnected where we're always performing, or we're so hidden in the shadows because we don't feel like we can keep up or we're not enough. And it just really messes with our self esteem and our sense of belonging. And I want to say for anyone listening, I want to see your photos. I want to see your best pose and I want to see your fall. I want to see you at your highest weight and I want you to see at your lowest weight because what I want to see is you. I don't want to see a pretense. I don't want to see a perfection. I don't care if you have the best curated outfit or if you went through and found like, the sniff test clothes that you threw on because that's what you had that day to do the workout. I want to see it all because that is real and that is who we all are. So just being careful, once again, that extreme, feeling like everything has to be on stage and so perfect that we can't enjoy every moment because it's not perfect enough. Oh my God, this picture, I'm gonna go back to the baby because I have a friend that I yell at all the time about this. But the picture of the baby's so cute. They're like, yeah, but look at my face. I'm like, oh my God, so you're not gonna share that photo because you don't think you look your best? What are we doing to ourselves? Or why are we looking at everyone else and going, I'm not good enough to be a part of that? So I'll just sit in the back and watch.
Mm.
Please join life, join us, share in the groups, share in the community. Do not be afraid. Nothing that you're going to say is dumb. And let's be very clear, I try to like comment all the time on stuff, and there is probably a good 50-50 where I post something I'm like, does that sound stupid? Was that reply to that person stupid? And I have to catch myself and be like, you know what? Just be proud of yourself for replying and commenting. Like, stop second guessing yourself. Of course, someone wants to hear something nice about themselves. Knock it off. So, getting out of our own heads and facing those insecurities, I think social media is just like, it's just the perfect platform to make us feel
Well,
terrible about ourselves one way or another.
so what's your personal process for like you mentioned that you're in your own head like not
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say very often, but in
You know,
enough situations in enough situations very often where you have to tell yourself like, oh no, I should do that. So like what is your internal process, and maybe people can take some inspiration from that for dealing with some of these I don't know what to call them, intrusive thoughts
they're
or
insecurities. They're anxious thoughts. They're insecurities.
okay.
And I will say, I say to myself all the time, the thoughts are lying to you. How do you really feel about it? I struggle all the time. It is often that I'm in my head. Should I say that? Should I not say that? How did I come across? Is someone mad at me? Did they think what I said was stupid? Like, I have to catch myself all the time and not let that stand in the way of just being myself. And some of that is, again, knowing yourself well enough, which I've worked years in therapy to do, to feel like, you know what, if I did make a misstep, if that did sound dumb, oh well. Or if they did take it the wrong way, well, I hope they know me well enough that they'll look over it, but I can't do anything about people's reaction. Like sometimes it is a pep talk from yourself, and there are days where you're more anxious than others. We all have anxiety. Like it doesn't have to be like to a level of clinical anxiety, but anxiety is a natural occurring emotion. Understand how you're thinking about things and reacting to things, and just have that kind voice that sits down and goes, "Hey, are you okay? Are we feeling anxious today? What's all of this about?" Take that step back. Let yourself do it. That's what I do. Um, I still, I mean, I had to psych myself out to talk to you today because I'm like, oh my God, I'm talking to Dean. Whew, take a deep breath, do some meditation. Da, da, da. We all have our insecurities. We all have our, oh, people are going to listen to me. They're going to think everything I say is stupid. And I'm probably going to end this call and have to go sit in the shower for a few minutes and just go, everything you said was fine. You didn't sound that ridiculous. Da, da, da. We all have them, but it's like, how kind are you going to be about it? And are you going to keep yourself from living? And that is where I've had to push myself the most. Like, you have to keep yourself moving forward, because what's the other option? And when you start feeling like the thoughts keep you from acting and living, then you've got to get help to work around them and think about them. And I do it through meditation, through journaling, through talking to my dog, who is she gives me great feedback. She's always like, "You did great." So, find that sounding board that's going to be there for you. She's
Okay.
very supportive.
All right.
Everyone should have a dog
I'm
or a cat.
yes. Can't argue with that. Well, I can argue with the cat, but I'm I'm allergic to cats, so I just I think they're great.
So for
I think they're
you,
I think they're a
yeah,
lot.
that would not be.
You know,
See, you
and
can't
even with
follow
the
my
dogs, I
plan
have
because
to
you
have
would have a reaction.
correct, yeah. And even with the dogs, I have to have like there's a giant filter in each room of the house. It's just running constantly. But anyways, well, I appreciate you sharing your that you also go through all these thoughts that you're helping people with. And I feel the same way. Like when I finish filming or when I finish doing a podcast episode, I get off and I feel all of those insecure thoughts of like, oh crap, did I do well? Is that stupid? Like, do I need to redo that? And it's something that I've been doing this for 12 years now. I started uploading videos in 2000, maybe even 2011, 2012. And so I've, been doing this a very long time, and I still get insecure about it. I still feel, you know, um, stressed when I'm, you know, uploading a YouTube video. I'm like, how is this video going to do? Or like sending out an email or like just sitting in my inbox and just looking at responses from people like, oh crap, is this going to be like a negative response? Is this going to be a positive response? Um, and only recently have I been able to shift the only recently have I been able to respond to it differently. This is unrelated, but I developed this weird ability a couple weeks ago, which probably is like I would call it like a skill unlocked that took 10 years or however long it took me doing this other work that I'm doing. But now instead of going down the rabbit hole and thinking and following my thoughts to the extreme, now I can look at something and I can look at something that's stressful. So for me, there's two things that are the most stressful. It's number one is financial insecurity. So any sort of threat to that just will, that will trigger me. And then the second thing is seeing social media comments or seeing like negative feedback from customers or members. And so now instead of like spending 30 minutes trying to reassure myself, which kind of works, but like it's a huge time suck. Now I'm able
Yeah.
to notice now, and I don't know if this is what other people do, but this is what I've been doing that's helpful. Now I notice, okay, where's that showing up in my body? And then I describe it to myself. So instead of like going down the rabbit hole or then trying to reassure myself or trying to talk myself out of the feeling, I just experience the feeling. I don't explain it. I just notice where it is in my body and I kind of follow it around. I'm like, oh, okay, there's like my back of my head is tight. I feel tense in the back of my head. And there's also something in my chest that's kind of like moving down toward my stomach. And I just hang out with that for a few seconds. And it doesn't make the thoughts go away entirely, but it reduces the intensity of them. Like it takes them from like an 8 or a 9 down to like a 2 or a 3 to the point where it's like, oh yeah, I'm still like worried about that, but I'm not like, and now it's not taking me out of the present like it was before. That was not
That's
related to
brilliant. No,
this, but I felt like sharing
no,
it.
it was absolutely
It's
related to
cool.
this. I think it's so wonderful that you are so vulnerable and open, because I bet I'm not the only one who looks at you and says like, "Well, he's been doing this and he's the master," and he's like, "Of course, like he just wakes up and da da da." So anytime we hear that someone that we admire goes through what we go through, don't underestimate what that does. It's
Mhm.
so brave and cool and helpful when people are just honest that they're human like the rest of us. And so, no, I think that was dead on. And by the way, paying attention to how you feel in your body or in your mind, that is the best advice we can give people. Because if you remember when you were like a kid, I don't know if anybody else had like a scary basement. And so you could psych yourself out, right? Like, there's nothing in your basement, at least not for most of us. Maybe you had, a clown killer down there, but most of us didn't. But you could start like stepping up those steps a little bit faster, a little bit faster. And before you know it, you completely psyched yourself out because you created this monster and you gave into it and you fed it and you were running up those stairs as fast as you could and slammed the door and you would have thought you just survived an attack. The same thing goes when we start ignoring feelings, we give them power. When we start ignoring thoughts, we give them power because the only reason we would ignore something is we're afraid of them. And we're afraid of them because they're bigger than us, they're stronger than us, they're whatever. But when you start to face it and you go, well, what are you? It can't become that thing that's bigger than life because you're not allowing it. And I think that exercise of following where it is in your body, because our body stores things weirdly and has reactions differently, based on our own experiences. So I think by doing that, you're doing this brilliant example of, I am taking the power away from the fear. I'm taking the power away from the feeling. I'm not letting it get out of control. You're still allowing yourself to have it, but now you're experiencing it for what it is versus the monster you made it because you ran from it.
Mm,
So that's great for people to hear.
cool.
Did you have scary
I like.
basement stairs?
I did. I did, but did I? I don't think it was too bad. I know. I don't. It may be scary, but I don't know. If you're not Midwestern, you don't get that. So like if
Oh,
you,
fear.
I live in Texas now, and there's no basements here. It sucks. I'm like, let's go hang out in the
Oh,
basement. Like there is no basement. You know, it's Anyways,
you're right. That is a
um,
different thing. My bad. Sorry for those of you who can't relate, but I'm sure you've all freaked yourself out in a dark room somewhere, somehow.
yes, exactly. Um, all right. Well, I do want to also mention Patrick is our. Well, I already said this. Patrick's our motivation and consistency coach, but we're also launching one-on-one coaching with Patrick in the very near future, if not already. So be on the lookout for that if you're on our email list or if you're part of our community or in your Facebook group or in the community on the members area. So Patrick is going to be doing one-on-one coaching. Um, make himself available for one-on-one conversations. And then we've also got another round of 90-day group coaching coming up as well. So if you want to do it in a group setting, that's also an option. So anywho, Patrick, I want to thank you for coming on and also for all that you do for the community. Patrick's been uploading these really great meditations. It seems like one a week for the last couple of months. Um, and those have been really helpful. So thank you for doing that, and
Of
thank
course.
you for all the conversations that you help contribute to, and the motivations
I
that you
do
give
what I
people.
can when I can. I'm just happy to be in the room. So thank you for creating the community I can do it in.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm sure we'll have Patrick back. We'll have another conversation, or say hi to him in one of the community sections if you're a member. Or if you're not, then become a member and interact with us. It's a cool group. Um, so yeah, Patrick, thanks again for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope it inspires you, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed listening. Thank you for being part of the Better Man podcast. Thank you for being part of the Manful Yoga community. If you are, if you enjoyed this one, I encourage you to leave a review. You can do that wherever you listen to the podcast, on Apple, on Spotify, or whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on right now. Keep in mind, we also have video versions of the podcast in the Manful Yoga app and members area, as well as on the Better Man podcast YouTube channel. So check those out. If you're thinking about getting involved with Manful Yoga, if you're not quite sure where to start, we do have a free 7-day program to get you started called the Beginner's Yoga for Men Challenge. You can learn more and sign up for that at manfulyoga.com/7DC. I'm going to put the link for that in the description below in the show notes. And then, yeah, guys, we've got lots of great episodes coming out. So I hope you'll subscribe and follow and all of that good stuff and stay up to date. We put out new episodes every Friday now, updated that recently. And then if you're not following me on social media, I'm on YouTube at Manful Yoga. I've also got Instagram and Facebook and even TikTok because TikTok too. So thanks, guys, for being here. I hope this episode was inspiring. I hope it inspires you to be a better man. And I'll see you on the next one.